Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, California Weather Watch. Today is January 11th, and right now we are looking at the visible satellite imagery. You can still see the smoke pouring off of portions of California. A little bit of fog moving across some of the San Joaquin valleys from the coastal areas, but really not much in the way of clouds to speak of. Marine layer largely absent here as we continue some offshore winds, which will continue on in through next week at times and potentially even on through the extended forecast. We're going to take a look at that here as we go through the video this morning. And again, a closer look here at the Los Angeles. There's a Palisades fire. You can see some other fire activity with the smoke again spreading out as we continue to have these offshore winds. If you want a home weather station, I highly recommend this one, Tempest Weather Systems. Got a great smartphone app. Click on the link down below if you want to save 10% off on that. You can see everybody here across the Los Angeles Metro, for example, and you can go up across Bakersfield and some of the foothill areas there. So yeah, I'm always looking for some of these stations as they pop into some of the more remote locations. But anyway, yeah, click on that link down below if you want to save 10%. So just a heads up here, when we do have these fires here across portions of California, it's always good to just kind of have a go bag ready when you hear about red flag warnings and whatnot, because these fires under certain circumstances are virtually impossible to fight. I mean, I talked about long range spotting, and these embers can easily spread downstream, and there's no way to saturate, the majority of the landscape you would need to stop the spread from some of these fires. So no matter what happens, fire is a natural part of what occurs in places like California, and especially Southern California. This is true for other portions of the USA and the world as well. Fire is just as natural as a tornado is or a hurricane. It's something we have to learn to deal with. You're never going to be able to stop all fires from starting. And you can see as we go through this upcoming week as well, we're going to have moderate to locally strong Santa Ana winds again and periods of elevated to critical fire weather risk. Again, fires are ongoing. Even with all the help out there, they continue to burn. Now, taking a look here, San Diego, you can see the red flag warning is still in effect. We got air quality alerts because, of course, all the smoke out there. And you can see high wind warnings, some wind advisories out there also. And the red flag warning is all the way on in through 6 p.m. on Sunday for strong gusty winds. So, yeah, we're going to be dealing with this over the next few days on in through probably at least Wednesday with some very low relative humidities. Now, also, I want to point this out for Eureka, California. We've got some strong winds along some of the coastal areas here. Should be calming down by the time we get towards Monday and Tuesday coming up here, but you see some northerly strong winds up towards 40 knots, even some combined sea heights up to 15 feet as well. If I put that into motion, you can see kind of the stronger winds down the coastal areas. You see the offshore winds across Southern California, offshore across some of the Sierra Nevada, northerly winds gusty at times down the Sacramento Valley here also. And yeah, you can see how we go on and through tonight and into tomorrow mornings. Also across the desert areas, some strong north winds, Las Vegas out there, portions of Nevada. But again, you can see these winds howling out across Southern California. Low relative humidities will accompany that. A little bit of a break as we go through Sunday night, but then we go through Monday morning and quickly the winds are back again. Offshore component as we go on into the day Monday. That's likely to continue on it through at least Tuesday as well. And if we look at the European, so we can scroll a little bit further out, we're going to go out towards Monday. That's about where the North American model ended. And you can see the offshore winds continue on in through the day Tuesday here as well. So yeah, that high fire danger is going to be with us for some time. Well, take a look here at some of the models to see if we have any precipitation incoming here as well. Let's take a look at the 12Z European. This is hot off the presses. We put this into motion, and yesterday we talked a little bit about this cutoff low developing, and you see this thing just drifts far away, like watching something float off in the ocean, like Tom Hanks with his what was it called? Wilson, his volleyball just kind of drifts off the shoreline and just, or away from his boat, and he just has no way to bring it back and bring some of that precipitation back in here. So you can just imagine us like, where is our precipitation here across the region? We get some kind of Arctic air here across some of the Intermountain West, which of course is going to be very dry. It wants to bring out a little bit of precipitation as we go through the extended. It's not going to be much, and mainly only for the higher terrain. So again, as we scroll out, we're looking at 10 plus days. We're now up over 300 hours out, and you see not much in the way of precipitation showing up for the state of California. That is bad news. Kind of how things go sometimes here in California. You go through periods of wet and then periods of dry, and then you deal with these fires. And then when the fires aren't happening, you can turn on the landslide machine here as well and the flooding potential. So if it's not one thing, sometimes it's another. Now looking at the GFS, it shows something similar. Let's check it out to see if it shows any semblance of that cutoff low drifting away like Wilson does in Castaway. There it is out there. Not much help for Southern California. And as we go through the extended forecast, it shows, it doesn't even really show much of the precipitation with some of that Arctic air moving down across the Intermountain West and pushing east of the Rocky Mountains. And if we go way far out over 300 hours, you can see what's that 324. We start to bring some of these systems back in here. So anyway, it's hardly worth mentioning when you're looking over 300 hours out. But yeah, maybe some hope in the future with that. Now, if we look at low relative humidities, and they're rather low here across California. And again, when you're dealing with 20s and teens and single digits, the air is just bone dry. That's what makes these fires so difficult to fight. So if we scroll on in through Sunday here, you see we just kind of wax and wane between diurnal and nocturnal cycles here with very dry air. Offshore winds just continue all the way on in through the day Tuesday. And you can kind of see how this gets concentrated across Southern California. It's kind of a unique setup here where fires are always going to be a problem. It's the same thing as any other weather phenomena with flooding and landslides because of that flooding, or tornadoes and Tornado Alley, or hurricanes in Florida along the East Coast and tropical areas. It is a natural part of the atmosphere here. Fires are going to continue to happen here. We have to learn how to manage it the best we can. And of course, we can always improve, but yeah, it's part of life. Now, taking a look at total precipitation in inches, I'm going to scroll through this on the European 12Z run. And as I showed you here, there's not much in the way of precipitation. And again, a little bit gets wrung out across mainly some of the higher terrain there. We can always hope for that, but that is not going to do it as far as moistening things up across some of the region. Yeah, you can see the west coast of North America not doing too hot. And there's reasons behind this as well. You know, the Pacific Ocean has kind of a cold water current. It's not bringing a lot of moist water towards the coastline here. It's why a lot of places have desert areas here across the west coast of North America. Now, taking a look at daily 2-meter minimum temperatures, if you're off across some of the backcountry here and off across some of the higher terrain of these wind-sheltered areas, you don't need me to tell you that it's been pretty chilly here in the morning hours, and that's going to continue on here as we go through this upcoming week. Maybe not even much of a break there, but you can see some of these overnight lows as we go through the upcoming week across a lot of the Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley down into the 30s, and of course much cooler across the higher terrain as well. And even look at some of Southern California. I mean, it's getting pretty chilly there. So yeah, that's 40s for the overnight lows, and even some places in the foothills dropping off into the 30s as well. And daily 2-meter max temperatures, it does warm up there for some of the daytime hours. Of course, got the compressional heating, the offshore winds as we go through the upcoming week, and then we'll see what happens after that. Now, 6 to 10 day below normal temperatures here across a lot of the west, but the big story again here is the below normal precipitation. 8 to 14 days, something similar there as well, all the way out through January 24th. And here's the fires here. The Palisades fire is up over 22,000 acres. There's the Eaton fire. There's a couple other fires going on there as well. And relatively speaking, I mean, you can look at other natural disasters, and things like hurricanes and tornadoes can easily kill more people than that. So there's risk everywhere you live, in the Pacific Northwest, in Alaska, in Hawaii, in Southern California. If you live off in Oklahoma or Florida or New York or wherever you are, there's always risk. The thing is, you got to try to manage that risk, and hopefully there's ways we can improve things here across Southern California. But there's no political party that's going to come in here and going to eliminate fires across Southern California. It's just not going to happen. It's impossible. Fire is just as natural as a tornado or a hurricane. So get off my soapbox for a while here. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, and a lot of people want to blame people for things, but it wouldn't matter if you had Ronald Reagan running things here as strictly as possible. You would still have fires across Southern California. You could bring Bill Clinton back in here or whatnot, or the best run political party you can imagine is going to have issues with fire here across Southern California. Just trying to drive home that point here. So, I'm not trying to get political with anybody here, but I'm just going to want to drive home that point that, this is one of the main threats that we deal with here across California. But yeah, global hydroclimate whiplash events here. And we're also prone to that. When we get these wildfires here, eventually we're going to turn on the jet stream back into the west coast of North America. And you can imagine when you have big burn scars over areas and you start to bring these flooding events back in here, we're going to be dealing with that next as well. So we're kind of on one of the areas that can deal with those hydroclimate whiplash events. So that's something we have to watch out for in the future as well. It's not just fires. There's all kinds of other threats here across, North America and the rest of the world, and everybody has to deal with some kind of threat no matter where you live. So anyway, sorry to get a little bit political here. I'm not trying to be, I have friends and I'm on both sides of the aisle here. I'm pretty moderate up and down. So I don't mean to try to alienate people here. I'm just, meteorologically speaking, it's just something that is always going to be a threat here across Southern California. So anyway, and portions of California as well, and a lot of the west coast of the USA for that matter. So anyway, click like and subscribe. Hopefully we can, continue to be amicable in the comments below. Let's just try to keep it civil, and we'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.